Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole Angemi and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. Let's get started with the story of the week.
So we have another story involving fast food this week, if you could believe it or not. It's one of those things like, are these happening all of the time and people are just now talking about it because it's like a hot topic, or is this just all happening recently? So this lady says she went to McDonald's. She got really sick shortly into eating her Big Mac that she ordered. She was claiming she had fever and diarrhea. And then when she went to go look back at the burger, there was teeny tiny little maggots crawling around inside of it.
So do you ever think sometimes when you hear these stories that it just so happens that every time we talk about one of these stories, it's because someone went viral on like TikTok, right?
Yes.
And sometimes I think like, are people that desperate for views on TikTok that they would do anything, including kind of making something up in order to get a lot of views and attention? I don't know. But this story just sounds a little off to me. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you for your medical opinion, like if you were to eat something with maggots, would you get sick that quickly that you would stop eating like mid-burger?
No, that's why I'm kind of calling bullshit on it. Like if you she said that she bit into it and started feeling sick and fever and diarrhea immediately. And that makes absolutely no sense. If she was literally eating mid-burger, the only thing, I don't think there's anything natural wise that could cause such a reaction like that instantaneously. The only thing that I could think of is that it had some kind of a toxin or a poison or chemical on it, a cleaning chemical that would cause you to get that sick that fast from eating something. And you wouldn't even get a fever immediately. It's just, I don't know. So that kind of part of the story is automatically what I'm thinking. So she says then shortly thereafter, she checked the burger, opened the box, and that there was maggots in it, which is completely possible. But what was shortly thereafter? Was it sitting outside for 12 hours in the heat? You know, was the box open? Was it outside? All these questions I have. Was it inside and there was a fly in the house? I don't know. So then the second video she posts shows more maggots on it, which of course, if you leave something that has maggots on it, it's going to have more maggots. And she had said that she lost 7 pounds because of how much diarrhea she had. So I'm just like, well, you wouldn't have lost 7 pounds in a couple hours after eating this burger. So was that a couple days later that she had the maggot infested burger on the countertop that she was then checking again? Because of course it was going to have more maggots.
Well, yeah.
So the timeline doesn't match up for me.
And I was wondering that too. Was it a situation where she ordered the McDonald's, took a couple bites of it, and then put it down somewhere, and then a couple of hours later started feeling sick? Because the way in which I'm understanding this is that immediately upon taking a bite of it, she got sick, right? And then she goes back and looks at it later and has maggots, where you're saying like environmentally, depending on where you left it out and everything, of course it would draw bugs, depending on where it is. And somebody in the comments, you know, most people are of course like, you need to file a lawsuit, congrats on your mansion, blah, 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 blah. But of course, somebody was like, I have a really hard time believing that this frozen patty went straight from a freezer to a grill and has maggots inside of it.
Yeah, I just like, listen, there's totally a possibility there's a possibility with anything if people aren't following protocol. If this burger was laying out and thawing out, I don't know how McDonald's works. Do they take it right out of the freezer and put it on the grill? I don't know. But regardless, let's say that it was sitting out and flies were landing on it and there were maggots in it and everything. Then if they cooked it, the maggots wouldn't survive that anyway. So it would have had to be pre-cooked out in the open with access to flies landing on it to put maggots on it, which would happen over the course of over a day. You know what I mean? Or at least a couple hours in the right temperature. You're assuming they're in an air-conditioned building. So regardless, it's totally possible that the place served tainted meat because, I mean, people died from burgers. Like, I think it was, was it Jack in the Box or one of those? There was like a huge E. coli outbreak or something years ago. So it's possible that she could have got a bacterial infection, but those things don't pop their head for like 12 to 24 hours after you eat it. So I just, and like, listen, maggots are disgusting and flies are disgusting. You see flies on dog shit all the time, and then they land on your food, and then they have their babies, and then those things, you know, like there's a lot of transfer of disgusting bacteria around, but not that fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get started with celebrity news.
So some new information is coming out about Kate Spade's 2018 suicide. So one of her friends / one of her previous interns has recently written that Kate Spade had been drinking a lot. You know, it started off as like she was drinking socially, which is, you know, considered normal. And then it started turning into her drinking a lot and then drinking by herself. And that all started leading up to her death. And while this friend was aware that she was drinking like this, she said she was concerned, but never really thought it would lead to her taking her own life.
There's been a lot of studies done that solitary drinking, of course, it's just more likely to be seen in people who have alcohol use disorder and people who are drinking alcohol, obviously, because it's not socially they're doing it to kind of drink away their problems, so to speak. And it's really striking, but people that have alcohol misuse disorder, so someone that you would consider to be an alcoholic, has a 94% increase in suicide than a person that doesn't use alcohol. So this all makes sense. I think when she died, her husband did say that there was no drugs or alcohol involved, but like,
well, he did say she was on depression and anxiety medication, but that he wasn't aware of any substance abuse. And I was thinking about this, like, even if she was drinking every day, people like us would consider that to be, you know, an alcoholic, right? Especially somebody drinking alone like that. I truly think there might be a world in which that her loved ones were aware she was drinking like this and really just don't see it as having a problem.
Exactly. I was going to say that. All these people that I know have an alcohol use disorder, people around them, everything, they don't really think they do. And it's you know, a lot of people think of an alcoholic as that person that has a bottle of vodka on their nightstand and needs to take a swig of it before they get out of bed in the morning. And that's just not the case at all. So that's quite possible, because he did say, I don't think that she had a substance abuse problem, but exactly. It probably was, you know, even just drinking a couple glasses of wine by yourself every day could be considered that, you know what I mean? Like, it's just that it seems innocent, and it, you know, a lot of people do it, but it is a disorder.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think a lot of people just strictly link alcoholism with being like somebody that can't, you know, like you're saying, have a vodka bottle on their nightstand, or somebody that shows up to work drunk. And that's not necessarily the case. There are plenty of functioning alcoholics. I mean, I could probably name 5 people I know that are functioning alcoholics that drink or get drunk every single night. And that's just normal in that scene and with all their friends. So nobody thinks anything of it. And that's exactly what I was thinking, was just, she probably was dealing with this. Her one friend came out and said it was concerning behavior, and her husband, on the other hand, they were separated at the time of her death, was saying he didn't think it was a problem, but he might have drank like that too. So you just don't really know. And for
remember that happened like right around the time Anthony Bourdain killed himself too. I feel like it was in a couple day or week period that they both died, but in the same manner, you know.
Yeah, it's really sad, because obviously there's this irony that, like, I love her clothing line. I always have. It's this very kitsy, bright, bubbly line, and the irony that, you know, she's creating this bright, beautiful universe while she's struggling internally is just very sad to think about.
Yeah, it is sad. That was really sad when that happened.
Yeah, it was horrible, you know. And she, at the time of her death, she had sold the company, so she didn't own it anymore. I believe she had stepped down a while back so she could focus on raising her daughter. And I think the company has been pretty actively working to donate money to mental health treatment in her honor, which is kind of cool, even though she didn't own it anymore. So let's get into this next one. So former SNL star Victoria Jackson had gone on Instagram. It looks like she might have been doing this series of videos called Is the Cancer Back? And then she updated everybody about her cancer journey. So in her latest video, she said that she had recently been diagnosed with an inoperable tumor and she only had a limited time to live.
Yeah, so I guess her original her original cancer is breast cancer, it looks like. And she was saying that she has a marble-sized tumor on top of her windpipe that is eventually going to cause her to choke to death, essentially. And the only thing that I could assume in this case is that she has metastasis to lymph nodes in her neck, I'm assuming, that are getting bigger and can compress. And she has stage 4 disease, so they said that they gave her a pill that was going to try to shrink the tumor, but it just seems as if it was some kind of experimental thing, or maybe prolong her life a little bit, but not cure her. And she said that she had made the mistake of Googling it, and in black and white print, it said that she had 32.6 months to live. That was the average that people taking that drug lived. And I guess it just kind of slapped her in the face to see it there in black and white in front of her, like, oh my God, like this is really going to happen kind of thing. And it made me think, well, like how horrible it really is to have Google. It's probably worse for for your medical anxiety than it helps.
It really is, because, there's been countless times, and I know better now, where I'll be like, my head hurts in this spot that it never hurt before. And then when you Google it or go on WebMD, it's like, well, you obviously have a brain tumor. And it's like, no, it just could be like, a muscle in your neck that just, you slept on it the wrong way that could be giving you a headache. So I don't know. It is awesome having all this wealth of knowledge and having the internet, but sometimes you just don't need to know everything.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Like my one little one, I always say she has an autoimmune disease, and she's not really responding to all these medications that we're putting on. So we're not trying yet another medication. And when I go to the rheumatologist with her, it seems as if I don't really have much of a choice. They offer a couple different drugs, but they're all, in my opinion, just kind of not anything that I want to put into my 9-year-old child. But I have to, because the risks that come along with it are that her legs are going to stop growing and all this crazy stuff, right? So they put her on medication, and I don't go home and Google. Even when I picked up the prescription yesterday, the little piece of paper, I started reading it, and I was like, why did I even look at that? Because ultimately, I really don't have much more of a choice, and it's just going to drive me crazy. So just, I think sometimes it is better to just be ignorant to some things.
Yeah. Speaking of autoimmune, our next story about Mayim Bialik, I probably butchered that pronunciation, but most people...
Her name has been impossible my entire life. She was on this show called Blossom, in the 90s, and she was so cool and blown up then, and I don't think anyone gets her name right.
Yeah, so people mostly know her from Blossom, Your Generation. I think most people now know her from Big Bang Theory. She was also the most recent host of Jeopardy after Alex Trebek died. So she had posted on Instagram that she'll be in hyperbaric treatment for the next 6 months to address some inflammation and autoimmune issues. So what is that treatment? I don't understand it.
Well, I think I'm going to go as far as say is that this is some Hollywood fancy, no research behind it or proven that this helps what she's trying to have it help. But so hyperbaric oxygen chambers are very helpful in medicine. They are, think about when you're in a room and you're breathing oxygen, you're really only getting 20% of oxygen into your lungs. When you go into one of these chambers, it's pressurized like an airplane would be, and it's pumping 100% of oxygen into your body. So this is good in situations where people, if you dive and you get decompression sickness and you get air bubbles inside of your body and your tissues, it could be helpful for that. It could be helpful in cases where you have a wound that has a hard time healing, or either if it's a really big wound or if you're diabetic, you really want to get as much oxygen as possible to the wound because that will help it heal faster. So these things are definitely proven to help in these cases. There's also a lot of people that say they're helpful in all of these unproven cases, And this is including depression, hair loss, migraines, there's like this whole list of things, but it's not really approved for that. And they don't really suggest that someone that just is rich that could buy one of these things to put in their house should be doing it unless they're under the care of a healthcare professional, because there are some, it's generally safe, but there are some kind of side effects that you can get from having to be either under pressure for that long or for having that much oxygen exposure. So you just have to make sure that a doctor or a medical professional is monitoring you using that.
Yeah, I mean, I looked it up, and these machines on average cost anywhere between $94,000 to $135,000. So they're definitely
they're like the size of a tanning bed.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like you could if you have a huge house, you could fit one in there. I mean, some of the list of implications for off-label use, I didn't even see anything about autoimmune disease. So I'm not sure, where she got that from, but whatever. Hollywood people do some crazy stuff sometimes. So go you if you could afford $100,000 tanning bed that doesn't tan you. I don't know. All right. Freak accidents.
All right, this one's local to us, so every story out of Philly is, of course, the most outrageous thing you've ever heard. It's just the nature of living in this area. So 4:30 in the morning yesterday, police in Philly got a call that a car had rolled into the Schuylkill River. It turns out that this couple had parked their car on the side of Kelly Drive, which for anybody unfamiliar with that road, it is this road that runs along the Schuylkill River through Philadelphia. It goes from pretty much like the art museum area up into this neighborhood called Manayunk. So they pulled their car over.
And it's like the most beautiful part of the city too.
It is a really beautiful drive.
And if you've never been to the city, if you've seen pictures of the city, we have this area called Lighthouse Row, which is all of the boathouses from the local universities, and they light them up along the water. And it's just, it's Fairmount Park. It's really nice, but it's also, you could drive straight into the river if you really wanted to.
Yeah, so there's basically like no barriers along most of the river, and there are a lot of parking lots because people could go on runs, or like you're saying, they could go row or do whatever. So these people had pulled over along the side of the road at 4:30 in the morning. So what do you think they were doing?
Well, they were, quote, getting busy.
So they're getting busy, and then in the car they accidentally bumped into the gear and put it into drive, and then the car rolled into the water. So luckily for them, they were able to jump out before they got stuck in the car or potentially had something worse happen. But how embarrassing was that police call?
I would love to see a video of this from, a local telephone pole or something.
Yeah.
Like, because they were naked, right? Or partially naked if they were having sex.
Yeah, I mean,
like, imagine just like watching that, like this car rocking kind of, and then all of a sudden the doors open and people bust out like totally naked, and they're screaming because the car, we didn't mention this, that the car is like a brand new $90,000+ Land Rover or Range Rover. So they were probably like freaking out, obviously, that their car was driving, and they show video of them pulling it out of the river, and it's destroyed.
No, it's like totally destroyed. Yeah, I think if you're having sex in a car, you're probably not fully naked, because like how would you even undress like that? So I'm assuming they probably pulled some clothes aside.
They'd have to have some kind of pants off at least. The woman have to a little bit, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, unless she was wearing a dress.
There's only so many Oh, that's true. I hope she was, but whatever. I still think it's kind of funny, actually.
Super embarrassing phone call, but at least nobody got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, this is really scary, because if they were in the car still, they could have died from this.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, that's kind of scary and nothing that you think about. So we're glad to see they're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So this next story, this Delta Airlines Boeing 757-232 landed in Atlanta, coming from Vegas on Sunday. So after it landed on Sunday, typically when planes land, they'll just, like gas it up and then load the next round of people. But for some reason, this one had to go out of service. So it got brought to the maintenance hangar at the at the Atlanta airport. So Tuesday morning, workers were changing the tire when suddenly the tire exploded, killing 2 of them and seriously injuring a third.
God, that's so scary. So they probably had severe blunt injury, died on impact, right? The one of them is I don't know how hurt, but it said they were seriously injured.
Yeah.
So when that thing busts open like that, you have the parts of the tire along with the rubber of the tire itself. So you could have shrapnel injuries, amputations. I mean, it's just, it must have been a terrible scene to witness.
Yeah, I mean, the son of one of the people that died said that their dad was so unrecognizable that they had to ID him by his tattoos and his lanyard.
Oh my God, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's really horrible. I'm very curious. Like, when I first saw the headline, I assumed when the plane touched down on the runway that then the tire exploded. So I'm just curious how it happens when it's just sitting still,
Well, I don't really know about that stuff. I mean, I would say it was overfilled. That's like why that happens, right?
Yeah.
Do you think were they filling the tires and they overfilled it?
I really don't know what happened. I was trying to do some extra research, to which all I found was that airplane tires are very dangerous, and apparently in the past one had exploded in the air, which then fragments of it hit the engine and caused a plane to crash or something absolutely insane, but I'm not really sure why it could happen like that. So,
well, I mean, this, just like add this on the list. This was a Boeing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 2024 is not the year for Boeing. Like, I mean,
it's just hard because, like, really, to Boeing's defense, there's like 2 brands of planes. So of course, anything that happens is always, if there were 2 car brands, you would be like, oh my God, there's always a problem with a Chrysler. If there was only like a Chrysler and a Ford, because you'd only have 2 to choose from. You know what I mean? It's not like they have planes, commercial ones anyway, that there's 50 different brands of them, right?
Well,
there's just like a couple majors.
There are way more brands than 2, but they are in the 2 most
they're
popular.
Like the conglomerate, yeah.
Because I don't know. It just they're just under a magnifying glass right now because of everything that's been going on this year and all the drama they're having at their corporate headquarters. So I think just every Boeing incident going forward, we're going to hear about. Where before they might have like had these issues in the past, but nobody was writing articles about them. So
yeah.
All right, this next story is about Cirque du Soleil. So they were in Portland recently doing performances. So during the first act of the show, one of the performers was on the rings. I mean, I'm watching this video. I'm like, I don't even know how I'd hold on to it normally. And this lady's like just flipping around it, no problem. But she eventually lost her balance and fell on the stage way below where she was floating above it in front of a bunch of people.
I couldn't see how many feet that she fell, but it looked really high up.
Yeah.
And she's okay, though. She had to go to the hospital, but she survived, luckily. But I've seen these circus performers, and I think it's really awesome what they do. They have special bodies that could do these things, and you kind of watch them and forget that they're human and they could make mistakes. And they just make it look so effortless and perfect all the time. And there was no, they don't put nets because it doesn't look as risky when they have that, but that would have helped her for sure in this case,
Yeah, and they were saying later on that because they move the equipment so frequently to different cities that it's not always set up so perfectly. So her coach is thinking that it was set up a little off, which threw her normal routine off, which caused her to slip and fall. So
I wonder, in a case like that, when you do that for a living, I mean, that's her livelihood. Do you think that that's going to scare her to do it again, or she's just going to get right back to it and not even think about it?
No, because think about it. Like we wrote about the Nancy Kerrigan attack this week, and I was watching the movie I, Tonya last night, and I was just thinking, like, in the movie, they show her fall a bunch of times, right? Like, one bad fall isn't going to stop you from doing it, or Nancy Kerrigan getting her leg beaten isn't going to stop her from doing it. It's scary, but it's just, like, I think at some point you just get used to it, and it's just part of it. I'm sure she's fallen before, just not in front of people so publicly with a 10-year-old taking a video of her, so...
Oh my God. Did you watch the video of the 10-year-old? He was, like, so well-spoken.
No, I didn't.
I was just like, God, this kid he was just like he just sounded like a little adult. It was just kind of funny.
Were you imagining if one of the girls got interviewed and how they
Oh my
wouldn't
God.
sound like that?
Lucia is just so brutal when she tells a story. It takes like 20 minutes for her to spit out what she's trying to say. It's kind of hilarious. But yeah, I was. The thing is though, every single time the kids go and hang out at one of their friends' houses without me around, the moms will always come up to me and say, "Your girls are so special. They're so well behaved. They have such a good relationship. They're so considerate of one another." Like they say all this stuff and I'm like, "Are you talking about my children?" So maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem.
I think they're just too comfortable around us.
Oh my
So-
God. Yeah, like, but I like getting feedback from people and I'm just like, guys, you don't have to blow smoke up my ass. Like, just if my kids suck, just tell me. But they always say nice things. So at least it seems like they act normal in front of other people for the most part.
Well, we have a joke with Lillian too, because whenever she's telling a story, she goes, and then we're like, oh my God, get it out.
And then Gabe and Laura found those clips from Dude, Where's My Car, where they're ordering the fast food and the lady just keeps saying, and then. So yeah, it's brutal.
Perfect. All right. A couple weeks ago, this family went out to dinner at a Japanese restaurant. They ordered apple juice for their 2-year-old, and the server brought it out, and it was an opaque cup with a lid. I mean, this is how apple juice, or not apple juice in general, most kids' cups you can't see through, and they have a lid on it. So they didn't check it, as I'm sure 99% of parents don't check the drink. After a while, the kid started acting really weird, and then finally they looked in the cup and they smelled it, only to realize that it wasn't apple juice, but it was cooking wine.
Oh my God. Could you imagine, seriously, like the kid's only 2, right? And was displaying signs that she was drunk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The thing is like if my kids started acting like that, I mean, it's cool that they checked the drink. I don't even know what I would be thinking. I'd be so scared. Like, what the hell is happening right now? Do they have a brain tumor or something? Like, what's going on that's making them act this way? It would really freak me out. But so they bring the kid to the hospital and she has a blood alcohol level of 0.12, which is considered, if you got pulled over and blew that on a breathalyzer test, you would be considered intoxicated while driving. Okay. So the kid was drunk. And so normally when they do the blood alcohol chart, it's based upon how much a person drinks and how much a person weighs. And it varies between how much tolerance you have with alcohol and stuff. But like a 90-pound woman could have 3 drinks and her blood alcohol level would be around the same. And whereas like a woman that's 180 pounds could have 6 drinks and the blood alcohol would be the same. So in this case, a child that only weighs about 25 to 30 pounds at 2 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would only have to have like a little bit less than 1 drink in order to be this drunk. It's just, it is really scary because the kid, what is kind of amazing about the story actually though, is that a 2-year-old drank wine and didn't even like question that it wasn't apple juice. And I know they don't know the difference, but like a kid's instinct when they don't like something that tastes bad is to spit it out. And it's just amazing that the kid drank it and it didn't taste that bad that they were able to drink it.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. And then, of course, you have to be like, well, how does this even happen? So apparently the restaurant had been storing this homemade cooking wine they had in a container in their walk-in that was labeled apple juice. Like, that is extreme negligence. You know, when you get like ServSafe.
How many other children got served this? Because adults don't usually order apple juice.
Exactly. So it's like, how many people are getting served this? It's extreme negligence. Like when you get ServSafe certified or you get RAMP or anything, like they really stress the importance of labeling everything. You have to. If they got inspected and they had things that weren't labeled correctly, they wouldn't pass inspection. And the server didn't realize this strong odor of alcohol. Like, I'm sorry, but wine has a strong odor to it. So you're like pouring it in a cup and you don't even realize?
I don't know. Maybe they weren't thinking about it or something. It's just,
I don't
Like,
know.
what do you do in this situation? Like, luckily the kid's fine.
Well, the
'Cause
kid's fine, yeah.
The kid you could really hurt somebody, especially a baby. I mean, a 2-year-old's a baby.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, they said a police report had been filed. I'm sure the restaurant either got closed down temporarily or they're going to have to go a bunch of health inspections because of this. I mean, this can't happen.
I feel like we had a story like this, and I don't know, it's been since we did Mother Knows Death or before when we were doing this podcast in the gross room. It could have been years ago where it was a similar situation that a child was served sake or something by accident at a sushi restaurant or something. Like, I feel like we just had a similar story to this within the past couple of years. It happens once in a while. Now it's just like every time you go out to dinner and your kid's acting like kind of weird, maybe you should see what they're drinking, I guess.
Well, yeah, and they said in their report, I guess like a police officer or somebody said, like, you have to taste everything your kids are ingesting. That's impossible.
Yeah, I wouldn't even, the thing is that, like, if you order, I mean, my kids order like lemonade or they'll get root beer or something. I don't, why would I check it? It's just, I wouldn't check it.
If you order a water for the kids and a clear liquid comes out in a cup and you see it, are you going to assume it's vodka? Like, no, you're going to think it's water until they sip it and spit it out. I mean, in this case, this kid didn't spit it out. She clearly thought it tasted good or something.
This kid was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah, this rules.
It's weird because the kids one time, like, we were drinking wine at dinner one time a couple years ago and the kids were like, what is that? We want some. And I was like, no, you don't. It's gross. Like, it's just whatever. And then they're like, come on, what is it? And I said, go ahead and taste it. And like, they stick their finger in the cup and like just lick their finger, the drop off. And they're like, oh my God, like they were gagging.
Yeah.
And wine isn't even that bad, you know, but it's tart for them. That's why I just think it's funny. I don't know if cooking wine tastes better or something, but it's just interesting that the kid just downed it like that. I mean, that's like a cup of wine is a lot, like, you know.
Also, when they were,
I can't even drink a cup of wine. It's gross.
I mean, also when they were showing pictures of the liquid, it wasn't the color of apple juice. Like, it was way too red.
But you're saying it was in a cup that was just like a plastic cup, like you couldn't see it.
No, I'm talking more about like, how did the server, nothing in the server's head was like, this isn't the right color. It smells very strong. Like, what's going on? So I don't know.
And who labeled it that? Like, why was it in a hand poured container anyway? That's just weird. The whole thing's a little weird.
Well, a lot of, like, I'm thinking about, yeah, it is weird to have apple juice not in a container, like, you know, like a Minute Maid container or whatever brand you order. That is bizarre. But I was thinking, when we used to make simple syrups and stuff at the bar, we would have the quart container and there would be a piece of tape on it, like the date it was made, the date we had to throw it out, and what it was. And a lot of times when you finish it, you just throw it into the dish pit. So they're washing it like with the tape on it. Yeah. But you're supposed to take the tape off and redo it every time. Yeah. So I could see how the mislabeling happened, but at the same time, the whole situation's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, we did our high-profile dissection this week because it's not a death, was, like, as Maria was saying, the Nancy Kerrigan attack by Tonya Harding and crew. And that was really cool one to get into and see the background with that. So that's what we did this week. And next week, we're going to be, well, I'll tell you what we're doing later in the episode because we're going to do something that relates to a news story this week for next week's dissection. We do all sorts of different posts, videos, games in the gross room. So I think you guys will really love it if you love this podcast. So you could join today for only $5.99 a month. Check it out.
You can visit thegrossroom.com for more info and to sign up.
This episode is brought to you by Giant Microbes. Don't forget, guys, we are doing a giveaway for these Giant Microbes. We have, for this giveaway, we have 3. We have a brain. It's a cute brain with little eyes.
It is cute.
We have this Cuterus uterus. Even the little ovaries have eyes. They're so cute. And then we have my favorite, sexually transmitted infections, chlamydia. Who doesn't want chlamydia?
Yeah, so to enter the contest, you're going to head over to Apple and you're going to leave us a written review, and you could screenshot that and then email it to stories@motherknowsdeath.com. If you forget to screenshot it when you first do it, you could wait, like, I think it takes about 24 to 48 hours for it to pop up. And you could send it to us for your submission. You can also request one of them. We can't make any promises about which one you're going to get, but we've been getting some pretty awesome stories so far about why people want certain ones, so we love hearing that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Giant Microbes. All right, let's get started with true crime.
So in 2021, this woman was getting sick all the time suddenly, which resulted in her going to the hospital on several occasions. She was having bad headaches, drowsiness, diarrhea, lightheadedness, and she seriously could not figure out what was going on until her husband admitted that he had been poisoning her.
I wonder, I'm curious for people that work in the ER, if they've ever had a situation where they have people that are coming in on multiple occasions. Because sometimes, even though in the ER you don't technically have patients that you see on a regular basis, you definitely get repeat customers. So if there ever has been a situation where you have a person that kept coming in sick and then all of a sudden you find out that they were getting poisoned, and it just makes sense. Because I imagine from a doctor's perspective, not being able to diagnose someone with these certain symptoms and knowing what was causing it would really drive you nuts, you know, if you're trying to diagnose somebody.
No, totally. So he said he, quote, felt bad, which is why he eventually told her, which you would hope somebody would feel bad if they're poisoning you. So she goes to the police, tells them everything. She shows them some evidence she has, which is he was basically putting this drug cocktail in her cans of Coca-Cola that she was drinking. So she was able to bring one of the cans to the police and show that there was, in fact, a white residue on the bottom of one of the cans. And his reasoning for this was this guy, who is at the time of this assault 69 years old, told police he was trying to marry the woman, his wife's 31-year-old daughter, and he was either spiking her drinks to make her fall asleep so the daughter could come over and have sex with him, or he eventually knew that the drugs would kill her so he could marry the daughter.
The worst part is that he wasn't even just having sex with the daughter. Her friend would come over too, and then they would dress up in the mom's lingerie and like do things in front of him. Well, it's such a weird story.
What's really important to note is that that's what he told the police, but he has been the only person arrested and charged in this case. So we don't actually know if the daughter's involvement is true at all.
Yeah, well, that is interesting. But so he was giving her crazy drugs. He was giving her MDMA, which is also known as ecstasy, which is a stimulant as well as a psychedelic drug. And then cocaine, which is a stimulant. And then benzodiazepines, which are a depressant. And this is kind of like a similar manner, not the same exact drugs, but River Phoenix had a combination of uppers and downers, you would say. And that combination can be very deadly, and it can cause the respiratory centers to shut down and kill a person. So she's lucky that she only experienced headaches, drowsiness, diarrhea, whatever, probably because he wasn't putting enough in, or she wasn't drinking enough, or whatever. It was diluted. I don't really know what the deal is, but it's so gross. Just like divorce somebody.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it seems like his story was kind of shifty and all over the place. Again, he was the only one arrested and charged for it. So in July, he pleaded guilty to aggravated battery, and then just this week, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison, 5 years of probation. Also, like, now, so when the incident happened, he was 69. Now he's 71. So what makes me uneasy about it is he's going to get out when he's 75, which could be old for some people and could not be. But, like, he can still do damage when he gets out of jail. I mean, this is attempted murder.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a couple things in the news this week that I'm just like, you read what the charges are and how long people are going to jail, and you're like, what's the rhyme or reason? I think one of the next stories I feel like is a really possible extreme jail sentence, and which you don't typically see in those cases. So we'll talk about later, but I don't know the rhyme or reason for these certain things, you know?
Yeah, all right. This next story is so outrageous. So I saw the picture first on Instagram and was like, we have to cover this. So In Memphis, this murder suspect had been on the run since May. After months, the U.S. Marshals were finally able to track down a house they thought he was hiding out in. So as they are searching the house, he literally falls through the ceiling because he had been hiding in the attic and his weight just, caused the roof to collapse into the floor below him.
Oh my God. It's so great. So when I was a little kid, we lived in a house that had an attic, and we used to keep the Christmas decorations up there. And Mom and Pop, we used to go up there at Christmas time to bring down the Christmas decorations. And he had never put a floor up there, right? So when you walk in an attic that doesn't have a floor, you have to walk on the beams, because if you don't, you will. The only thing that is kind of looks like a floor that's holding up insulation is the drywall from the floor below it. So that's what happened. So one time, Pop was up there and he slipped off of one of the beams and his foot went through the ceiling, and it was in Annie's closet, my sister's closet. So you just it was hidden and he never fixed it. And there was always this shoe. It was seriously a footprint outline in the ceiling of her closet, right? So that's what made me think of this. So that's how you could fall through easily, because drywall will not hold up a person, right? So
well, this happened in Christmas Vacation too, when Clark was stuck in the attic when they closed the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
He stepped through it, and luckily Rusty's bunk bed was right there, so just his leg went through.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, it could very easily happen, and what a dummy for hiding up there through the ceiling.
I know, seriously.
This next one is one of the most disturbing cases, I feel like.
The next two are.
Yeah, they're some of the most disturbing cases we had on here. So this dentist from Colorado had been arrested after allegedly flying 2,000 miles to have sex with a woman and her 9-year-old daughter. So since last October, Dr. Jason James Atha was chatting with this mother online, who was actually an undercover agent, and he was essentially grooming her, trying to get her to have sex with him and her juvenile daughter. And eventually this panned out where they made plans. He literally flew there. He was planning on spending the weekend in Palm Beach. And when he got to when he landed in Florida at the airport, he got arrested for it.
Yeah, he was. So I guess, I don't know where the chat started online, but the woman, the undercover cop, had said something about letting her 9-year-old play with sex toys and as toys. And that got him to being oh God, I would so love to be a part of that, and saying all this really gross stuff. And it just escalated from there. And just thinking about this guy went through all of this training to become a dentist, and then having patients and everything to be into this. I mean, was he married? Did he have kids? It's so freaking weird.
Well,
and then the grossest part actually is that he told the mom when he met up with her that he wanted her daughter to not be dressed age appropriately or something.
Yeah, which is disgusting.
And put makeup on her or something.
And when he was arrested at the airport, on his person, he had child pornography and sex paraphernalia on him. You were a disgusting person.
Yeah, he really is a disgusting person. You know what? This just got me thinking that it would be super cool if we could talk to one of these cops that does this for a living. And how, because imagine, we hear these stories, but imagine being a person that is working in these cases and has to hear, this stuff coming out of a person's mouth and stuff. It just must be so disturbing. And I wonder if they have a hard time sleeping, and if they have children, how they feel about people like this living out in the world. It's just, it's so disturbing.
I'm sure they go through lots of mental health treatment dealing with these cases, and it's it sucks, but somebody has to do it, and they're kind of heroes for getting people like this off the street and making sure they're locked away and not hurting people for real.
Yeah, I know, I do think that, but
that's why I love that show, To Catch a Predator, because it was because some, I really don't agree with the people that are you're entrapping them and everything to say this stuff. No, normal people wouldn't say anything in a situation like that, right? Or they would report something like that online to authorities. They wouldn't engage with it.
Well, the thing is too is, I mean, I could go both ways with that too, because you are kind of, you're not like a real scenario, and you're kind of like egging a person on, right? I mean, that's technically happening, but at the same time, they knew that this guy was trouble, and they might not have had enough to get to arrest him.
Yeah.
So they had to kind of create more in order to be like, this guy actually sought out this. That's how, because if he just was possessing or what the porn, he wouldn't get in as much trouble. So they almost have to like get them to do more in order to.
He would get in trouble for having that type of porn.
No, but not as much as actively trying to seek it out, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why I think that they have to, if they want to get a higher charge and get the guy put away for a longer time.
I'm just saying, if you go on Reddit or something and you are making a post like that undercover cop is making, bringing up the subject of like a child playing with sex toys, right? Most normal people would either ignore it or report it or have something to say about it, not actively engage in conversation about it.
And why, I mean, we ask these questions all the time. Why are platforms even allowing that kind of talk to happen?
I don't know.
Like, I do understand the free speech thing, and I'm very much a free speech thing, but not when it comes to like that's like a protection of a child from getting hurt thing, in my opinion. So that's not like you could just say whatever you want. I don't know. Maybe. I know that they have the technology to pick up like phrases and words and things that they could pick that up. So maybe it was like a dark web thing or something. They didn't really say where it started, right?
No, it just said an online forum, so I don't know specifically where it happened, but yeah, because you also have to think of that. If it's something like on the dark web or whatever, like you're taking all these special steps to access it, so you know you're doing something wrong. It's not like you stumbled across something. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think this kind of leads us into this next story too about this other doctor. So this doctor, who was a pediatrician in Roanoke, Virginia, he has had his license suspended, which in my opinion, after we talk about this, I think it should be revoked completely. And I don't know if you're going to feel the same way, but basically between August 2021 and February of 2024 this year, accusations of sexual misconduct and disruptive behavior had come out about him. He was making incredibly inappropriate comments to children. Like, he called one pregnant woman, he said she was fat as fuck. Like, that's so inappropriate. And then
that to me doesn't even bother me.
No,
like,
that's not even the worst.
Listen, it's not appropriate, but like, the other shit that he was saying, that when I read this story, I just can't even believe it's true. It's so outrageous.
Yeah, so part of me doesn't even want to say these quotes because they really bother me and they're disturbing, and I don't even like want them out there further than this article. This guy was saying really inappropriate sexual things about babies and children and like to their parents.
I'll say exactly what he was saying. He was saying, I recall smelling my daughter and it makes me want to fuck them. He said that to a parent. He also said that syringe feeding an infant was like a dick. You get it all in your mouth, but you can't swallow it down in front of a newborn baby's parents.
Yeah, like he's saying this to parents bringing their children in to be treated by him.
It's so weird. And could you imagine, like, I love my pediatrician so much, right? And I've been going there my whole life. You went there your whole life, and I went there when I was a kid to his dad. I just, like, it's such a, like, child-friendly, positive experience. I could, like, imagine how caught off guard the parents were hearing something like that. Like, you would even question if you really just heard what he said.
Well, yeah, and there were reports as of 2021 that he was saying things like this. And he didn't get fired from his job until February 8th of this year. So I'm kind of just like, I don't know. Is it one of those things where you hear it and you're just like, I must not have heard him right or whatever? Like,
it's multiple people from multiple sources, like, coming and saying that he said these things. It's true. It's just, is he having some kind of a mental crisis? Because it's very unusual to even say something like that at all. Like, what's going on?
Well, it's fucked up to say something like that. And then this guy from his pictures seems relatively young, like in his late 30s, early 40s. So it's like you just went through all that medical school training to say all that. Like,
And residency in pediatrics and everything like that. Like, it's just, unless like he's a predator and he just wanted to get access to children. But I don't, saying that stuff out loud is just it's so bizarre in so many, like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just disturbing.
yeah, and I would be pissed as the parent knowing that, like maybe he didn't say this to every parent that went in there, but I'd be pissed if I was going to that practice and I found out there was complaints going back 3 years about behavior
I
like
would
this.
too.
So it's not like this just came to light in February that somebody reported it for the first time. I mean, they had official complaints dating back 3 years that he was acting
I think
this
there
way.
is some kind of a website or something where you could see complaints filed against doctors, but like whoever goes on those websites,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
So his license has been suspended. I feel like that's not enough.
Well, they have to, I mean, they're going to have to investigate it,
Yeah.
but which they should, because there's always a possibility that people are trying to get somebody in trouble. We've seen it happen. So like he deserves that, but he'll lose it as soon as they figure out. I just think it would be really bizarre if a bunch of parents got together and reported him that didn't even on different occasions. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, their internal investigation had enough information to fire him, so I'm just curious what they're going to come up with upon further investigation. I don't know, but
All right, let's get started with medical news.
so let's talk about some of the most dangerous cosmetic procedures.
Okay, so there has been a study that came out recently that said that they gave a list of the dangerous cosmetic procedures that you could get. And the number one is called a keratopigmentization, which is changing your eye color permanently. It's so outrageous, and I'm going to write about it this week for our high profile dissection, because you just won't believe the results are crazy. Like, they showed these men who were like, Italian, olive skin, dark skin color, dark eye color, like black brown eyes that get these baby blue crystal eyes. It's so insane. So, but that one has the most risk of, or the most procedural risks associated with it. And then the second one, which was kind of shocking to me, is thigh lifts. I never feel
like I heard of this.
I never heard of it, but then when I looked at it, I looked at what it was. It was like they're just, when you get older and the inside of your thighs sag, or if you have an extreme weight loss or something, they just are cutting away fat and tissue on the inner thighs and like lifting it up. So I saw a bunch of before and after pictures, and I could see why people would want to get it done. Brazilian butt lift is now number 3. So that one was higher, but I guess the problem with those is that people are doing it that aren't experienced. And remember, we wrote a celebrity death dissection about Jackie O, who died from a Brazilian butt lift.
Yeah, not Jackie Onassis. Jackie O,
No, Jackie O.
television personality.
Yeah. But also on that list were body lift, injectable fillers, which, see, complications with that could just be like allergic reaction, infection, stuff like that. Breast reductions, butt implants, breast augmentations, arm lifts, breast lifts. So I think for the most part with those other ones that I mentioned, it's mostly infection risk is the highest probably. But in the other, if you're going to do cosmetic surgery to change your eye color, like, there's a chance that you could lose your vision, and that's a huge risk. Huge risk.
Yeah, they're saying with this eye color change surgery, there's a 92% chance of complications. I mean, why would you ever risk it? Then the thigh lifts is a 78% risk, and the BBL's at a 38% risk.
Oh my God.
I
wonder why the thigh lift is so much. It's interesting.
Well, all right. So with the thigh lift, it was saying the common complications were blood clots, infections, and altered skin sensation. don't really know what that means.
Well, anytime you do a procedure like that, like when I had my tummy tucked on, like my stomach feels weird. It doesn't feel like it did.
yeah.
I don't know. Anytime you have surgery and you cut the nerves, you might not ever regain normal feel back to it. But I guess with the blood clots could be because of the swelling in the legs, and that could cause the blood to not flow properly through the veins, and then it could end up clotting and causing a pulmonary embolism. So I guess that would make sense. Yeah, I mean, and Brazilian butt lift's the same thing. Fat embolism's a big one with those. I think Jackie O actually died from a pulmonary embolism, but pulmonary embolism is a complication of any kind of surgery like that. Yeah. The eye one's outrageous though. You guys gotta, I'll write that up on Monday, and it's just so outrageous.
All right, let's get into this next one. So in February 2023, this woman went to a laser hair removal place to get her armpits and vagina done. And she said almost immediately into the procedure, she felt this horrible burning sensation, to which the tech told her was a normal feeling.
So I had laser hair done on my bikini line. It fucking hurt. Like, it hurt. I didn't get... So a couple of my friends have gotten it done and got their skin numbed ahead of time. I didn't. I just went and got it done. It hurt. I thought it hurt like way more than I thought it was going to hurt. And I can't explain it, but it's more, you know, when you pluck a hair and it's that gross feeling?
Yeah.
It's like that, but like burning at the same time, like a burning hot of that gross hair pulling feeling. I don't know. And then I was like, oh, maybe it was just because, I mean, I didn't get burned or anything. It worked great. And it didn't even hurt when I left to go to the car. It just, the sensation of it happening was, I thought it was a little bit more intense than I was expecting. But, so I guess if a woman complains that it hurts, they would say it was normal, because it does fucking hurt. It hurt bad.
Yeah. So she's saying she was telling the tech, who she claims that the tech did not check the machine or anything to make sure it was right. She just said it was right. And then they were giving her hydrocortisone cream to take away the pain, which was only making it so much worse. And then pretty much immediately she noticed an extreme redness in her pubic area. And then she started noticing these like dark circles, which I assume were from the laser, in the areas. Like, you could see exactly where the laser hit in these pictures on her armpits and pubic area.
I have a couple posts in the gross room. One is called laser skin removal because the lady's skin looks terrible. And the other one is called It's Merkin Time because this lady got it done and had such bad scars that, like, I was just joking that she's going to have to wear a pubic toupee to cover the horrible scars that she got from it. And of course, a lot of people do this that aren't properly trained to use this laser machine. So that's part of the problem. And then another thing is, so I was talking to Dr. Dimitri about getting like my mustache done. And he was saying, oh, you can't get it done in the summer. You really shouldn't get it done unless your skin's like not tan at all. Like, you don't want to have sun exposure when you get it done. And the reason for that is because it's advised that you don't get this laser done anytime that you're tanning or anything like that. And in the two cases that I have in the gross room, that you could tell that the women have tan skin. So I don't know if that had something to do with it, along with them just like not using the machine properly.
Well, the first thing I thought of was because Dee Dee, my cousin, your niece, does laser hair removal, and I was going to get my mustache done, and I didn't end up getting it done because it was just going to be like a bunch of sessions and I didn't feel like dealing with it. And then I'm kind of happy I didn't, because can you imagine having burns like this on your face? I know this is a rare case. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it is a rare occasion. Like, and I don't even know. I mean, I didn't go to I only had like 3 sessions done of mine, and it significantly has like reduced hair. So I feel like I feel like for your mustache or something, you would need it done like once or twice, because the hair is so much thinner and You know, it works better when you have dark hair against light skin. It works the best, you know, but
Well,
I'm sure they've left scars on people for sure, but if you're going to a legitimate person,
when I Googled this place where this happened, the first thing that came up was an ad on Groupon. And I kind of have this
don't
rule
ever use a
that-
Groupon. Yes.
Yeah, you don't ever use a Groupon on, you know, like beauty procedures. I used to get them to get massages, and I stopped doing it for that because honestly, like 90% of the places I was going to were so shady that I was like,
that
forget
you
it.
or Mom that had like the extra shady experience from a Groupon massage?
Well, I had it with Mom because
oh,
we were both so active on Groupon, and some of them ended up being really nice, but then some of them ended up being like, I feel like I'm gonna get killed in the back room here. Like, I don't feel safe at all. So I just want to say,
Maria and my mom are like hardcore they would get a massage every week, and I'm like, I will never let a strange person touch my body like that ever. So I had one once, and it was not pleasant at all, and I will never do it again.
I don't know. I'm in this place now where like I'd rather save up for 6 months to a year and get like a real one at a real spa than to go to these shady ass places ever again, because like being like naked on the table, feeling uncomfortable is just not worth it at all. So I don't know. She's suing them for $1.5 million. So that's where
she has
it ends.
permanent scars.
She does. She went to the ER and they said she had 1st-degree burns.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You're not, if you go there and you sign paperwork and it says that might be a complication, because I don't necessarily know if it's fair, because certain medications you take, you ever take a medication that's like avoid sunlight?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're on that and then you get this done, that could happen. There's a lot of different reasons that it could happen. So if you go to a place and they unknowingly know what medications you're on, or if you have a light sensitivity to something, like there could be more to the story, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Of course, the tech could have just had it on the wrong level or whatever. I don't really know how that works, but
yeah,
don't you think so?
I feel like they would really have to investigate both sides, like what was going on in the machine. Was she on any medications? Did she have any like thing going on? I don't know. So I feel like they really got to look into it.
All right, other death news.
So news broke last month that this guy in Canada was just walking along the beach and, you know, saw a sneaker and then there was a foot inside, which apparently is not uncommon in this area.
Yeah, it's kind of cool the way that they really think of it. So it's called the Salish Sea, and there's actually a Wikipedia page dedicated to this because they found over 20 feet
since 2007.
Which is outrageous. And the reasoning behind it is obviously like the first thing you're going to think is a serial killer or something,
or like the mob.
Yeah, it's just like something weird, but they've just been able to attribute it to saying that there's a lot of population in the area. There's shipwrecks and things like that, accidents. And what happens is if a body is in a body of water, the scavenger fish, like once it falls down into the water, the scavenger fish will eat the soft tissue of the bottom of the leg and stuff, and it will like incidentally amputate the feet off of the body, but the feet are still in sneakers or shoes, and shoes are very buoyant, so they like rise to the surface and the foot is still in the shoe, and then it washes up on shore. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting and weird. I think, could you imagine if you're like one of the people that just stumbles across that thing?
No, because I was thinking about the story we had a couple weeks ago where that person stumbled across the sex doll, and how your heart must just stop. Or like you just see a shoe and you just think like when we were just on the beach last week, I mean, this is flip-flops, so you could obviously see there's no feet in them, but you just see like abandoned sandals and stuff everywhere. So I think if I saw a sneaker, I would probably just be like, oh, somebody clearly just didn't want to walk in the sand. I mean, when we were walking towards the ocean, Gabe just left his sneakers in the middle of the sand, like
in the
near
middle
nobody.
of the 500 horseshoe crabs that were all over the beach.
Yeah, when we had that what was that moon last week that we had?
Oh, I don't know what it was called. Was it like a super blue moon or something? I don't really remember what it's called,
like,
but that was insane.
I don't pay attention to the moon or anything. Like, you guys are always like, there's going to be this moon tonight. I would have no idea. So we went to the beach last Wednesday, I want to say around like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and there was this like mass graveyard of horseshoe crabs because the tide was so far back, and it was kind of disturbing to see, honestly.
Yeah, we were like, is it tsunami? I was going to say a tsunami because that's what
Lillian said.
Lucia calls it that, and so does Pop Pop. So
yeah, so
yeah, we were like, is there a tsunami right now that's like pulling the water in this far? Because we're all like, this is really weird.
But then there was then when we were on the boardwalk at nighttime, there was that crazy moon, and it was red.
That looked so cool.
It was really cool to see. But
Devin actually took a video of the sunrise that day, and it just looked insane. Like, it just looked a little bit different. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. All right, on to questions of the day. Every Friday on the @MotherKnowsDeath Instagram account, we put up a story, and you guys could ask us a question. So first, as a firefighter's wife, what do you or do you not do now that you've been with him?
I don't know. He's not really too crazy with the in our bedrooms, all the bedrooms especially, he's very hardcore about having, he doesn't want any furniture in front of the windows, and he will like flip out if the kids leave like laundry or toys or something in front of any of the windows, or just like piles of anything on the ground, because he's always thinking about if there just needs to be clear pathways for people to walk in case there's ever a fire. So we're pretty, Lillian wants to rearrange her room in a certain way, and I'm just like, no, Daddy doesn't want your bed in front of the window. Like,
yeah.
And it sucks for her room because she's got so many windows in her room. I don't know. He's not too, like, I know a couple of his friends aren't, like, wives aren't allowed to have like plugins, those like, Glade plugins or the Bath and Body Work ones. Gabe doesn't really care about that, but some people, I know one of the firemen don't want any curtains, like thick curtains around the windows. There's like all these different things. Leaving the dryer on, scared the dryer is going to catch on fire overnight or something like that. So he's not really like, right? Do you think so?
No, he's pretty chill, especially because like, for me, I'm like, I don't want to bring great shame to my family being within a fire family, like setting something in my house on fire, where I'll go in your house sometimes and your space heater's on full blast touching your curtain, or you just leave a candle on and you're not home. And I'm like, clearly nobody cares.
He leaves candles on more than I do, trust me. I don't really like them that much though, because I do forget about them. But he does get like, he goes to a lot, believe it or not, a lot of what he calls careless cooking accidents. So anytime I'm cooking something, like he wants like a lot of ventilation in the house. So he wants the windows open along with the hood of the stove on too. Because he just like, he doesn't like that. And he's like always scared that there's, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Ricky's always turning the hood on full blast, and I like hate the noise of it. So I'm just like, relax. Like, I'm cooking meat. It's not like the kitchen's not even full of smoke.
I always have it on full blast. I have to, because he'll like, if he comes downstairs and sees smoke, he like freaks out. And I'm just like, dude, like I'm frying something or whatever. It's smoky sometimes.
All right, the next question. How does someone with dementia or Alzheimer's die from the disease?
So what happens when you have that is that you start having difficulty. There's a lot of different things that could happen, but one of the biggest or most common ones is that you have difficulty eating and swallowing, and then when you eat or swallow, you could accidentally inhale food, which is food aspiration into your lung, and then since your immune system also doesn't work as great, you're at an increased risk of getting infections in your lungs, and you could get something called aspiration pneumonia, which is when food in the lung then becomes infectious and you can die from that.
It's just super sad.
Dementia is like seriously one of my worst fears. Like, I'm telling you now in documentation, like, don't let me live like that. Seriously.
All right, last. Have you ever visited the Museum of Death?
No, where is it?
I have no idea what it is either. It sounds cool. I'd be interested. I feel like it's in LA, if I recall.
It's either in LA or it's in
It's definitely
New
not
Orleans
in New York
or something.
Oh, it might be in New Orleans.
I don't know. Yeah, but no, I never have. But I'd be into it.
No, I feel like in New Orleans, people are probably gonna be screaming about this. I feel like they have a museum of like pharmaceuticals or something like that. Maybe it is the Museum of Death. I remember there was some medical museum when I went there.
Didn't we go to one with Paul? That like Scientology museum in LA? That was insane.
Yeah, Paul was like, let's go to this psychology museum in LA. So we go, and I'm walking through and like reading the plaques on the wall, and I'm like, this isn't true. This is so weird. And then like I like, as I keep going through, I'm like, this is the most dramatic museum I've ever been at in my life, like these stories. And then at the end of it, they try to get you to sign up, but we found out it was owned by Scientology because they do not like psychology at all.
Yeah.
And it was like trying to say how poisonous it was. So I don't know. That was a crazy experience, like not knowing what it was before we went in. But I'd be interested in going to the Museum of Death wherever we find out it is. So we have not been there, though. All right, guys. Don't forget to submit your story for 6 shocking stories. That is to stories@motherknowsdeath.com. That is also where you could submit your review for the Giant Microbes contest. So just take a screenshot of your review and email it over there. And then after September the 13th, we're going to be announcing 3 winners.
All right, guys. See you next week. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor, and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.